Okay, back to Bedikas Chametz. Okay, so we learned yesterday the concept of Bedikas Chametz, why you have to do Bedikas Chametz, the places you have to do Bedikas Chametz. People have to be very, very careful that when they do Bedikas Chametz with the candle, that they don't, God forbid, burn down the house. It happened already many, many times. The people the night of Bedikas Chametz ended up where the kids were careless, or the adult was careless, caught onto drapes, and 2 seconds the whole house, was destroyed. So yeah, but you have to do Bedikas Chametz. Today you're allowed to use a flashlight. In fact, the flashlight in certain respects, I'm not talking about the spiritual, but physically, a flashlight is much better to see where you're going. So yeah, you use a candle also, because spiritually you're supposed to use a candle. Okay. If you're doing Bedikas Chametz, if you're leaving town, we learned you have to do Bedikas Chametz the night before you leave in one room without a bracha.
You have to do Bedikat in your car too, right?
Yeah, we said that yesterday. You have to do Bedikas Chametz in the car, in the office is what?
Why without a bracha?
The only time you can make a bracha, according to halacha, is when you do it the night of Bedikas Chametz. So this year is Tuesday night. So Tuesday night you can do Bedikas Chametz with a bracha. But the din is like this. Let's explain this din, that we should understand it better. If somebody would leave before Purim, and they went away for 2 months, okay, they don't have to do Bedikas Chametz in their house. Once you leave your house within 30 days of Pesach, the 30 days before Pesach obligates you to do a Bedikas Chametz. Okay? So even if you're not coming back, if you're coming back in the middle of Pesach, then for sure you have to do Bedikas Chametz before you go in the whole house. But if you're not coming home, then you have to do Bedikas Chametz somewhere. So either you could do it in your house earlier without a bracha, or if you're going to be renting a room before the night of Bedikas Chametz, then halachic you could do Bedikas Chametz in that room with 10 pieces of bread and the bracha and everything together. If people are leaving town and they want to do Bedikas Chametz without a bracha, they should not put out the 10 pieces of bread. Why? Because I had a case that somebody went away for Bedikas for Pesach, and they decided, no, they're going to do Bedikas Chametz, the 10 pieces of bread, and they took it in their suitcase to burn out of Pesach where they were going, and of course they forgot. And in the middle of Pesach, they opened up the suitcase, and there were 10 pieces of bread. So, since that happened, I tell people, because halachically you don't have to put out the 10 pieces of bread. So unless if you take it in your hand luggage, in your hand, that you're going to go burn it, you shouldn't put out 10 pieces of bread, because then you're going to, like this, Erev Pesach, you're there with so everything together, we remember to do it.
Do you still have to notify?
You still have to nullify the Chametz Erev Pesach, no matter where you are, you have to sell the Chametz, everything, yeah. Now, what is the proper time for Bedikas Chametz? The time for Bedikas Chametz is as soon as night, in fact, right before night begins. This year, Tuesday night. So let's say for argument's sake, at 7:30. So ideally, right before 7:30, you're supposed to do Bedikas Chametz. Halacha says, what happens if you don't daven with the minyan? You daven at home. So you have to do Bedikas Chametz before you daven Ma'ariv. Even though there's 2 reasons in halacha to say Ma'ariv should come first. What are the 2 reasons? Number 1, Kriya Shema is biblical. The night Shema of Ma'ariv is biblical. Bedikas Chametz is rabbinic. Secondly, Ma'ariv you daven every night. Bedikas Chametz you do once a year. There's a rule, more common, less common. Tadar v'she'ena tadar. You do the more common thing first. So there's 2 reasons the halacha says l'cha'era you should daven Ma'ariv before you do Bedikas Chametz. Why don't you? So the Alter Rebbe has a whole conversation about this, and the Alter Rebbe writes, because Bedikas Chametz, the time for Bedikas Chametz is as soon as night begins. Otherwise, it's called mitzvah iveres. You're going to pass over the proper time for the mitzvah. So if you daven in a shul with a minyan, so then the halacha is you daven Ma'ariv first, and then you go home and do Bedikas Chametz. But if you're not davening in shul, and you daven Ma'ariv usually at home, so halacha says you have to do Bedikas Chametz first, and then you daven Ma'ariv. Now, and in fact, to the extent, you're not allowed to eat before a meal before Bedikas Chametz, you're not allowed to learn before Bedikas Chametz, and you're not allowed to do Malacha before Bedikas Chametz. That's how important Bedikas Chametz is, that you shouldn't forget to do it in the right, proper time.
But if somebody is still finishing clean, he can wait until...
Yeah, if you still finish clean, you have to clean before you do Bedikas Chametz.
Yeah.
It might take a long time to check everything.
The Alter Rebbe had one tiny room, and he did Bedikas Chametz the whole night.
So when did you have Arabic married?
No, he died. Don't worry about it. Bedikas Chametz took a whole night. Today, in the world, Bedikas Chametz go chick-chack. Because, the house is clean already, symbolically. So it's not halacha, that's not true. That's not correct to do. But other people rely on the fact that when you clean the rooms, when you cleaned it, you checked the room, you saw that it was clean, there was no chametz. So essentially, you really did a type of bedikas chametz, if you're able to see well. But Lepel, it's not only putting down 10 pieces of bread, taking the 10 pieces of bread and gamarno and you're done. It's not the way to do it. Okay, so Ma'ariv we said. Any place that you do bedikas chametz. Huh?
How much work do they have to do?
You have to search around the house for crumbs, for... Huh? Yeah, get on your hands and knees. Okay, you have to check in all the corner. Now, another thing you have to check is like this. Just practical things come up. Women's pocketbooks that they're planning to use during Pesach, you have to do Bedikas Chametz in them. Pocketbooks. No? Huh? I think. Dig, yeah, okay. It's called pocketbook in English. Okay, anyway, so those, if you don't want to check, well, let's say she has 50 of them, and you don't want to check all 50, but she'll only use, let's say, 2 that week of Pesach, so you can sell all of them with chametz, so you don't have to check anything. But those places that pocketbooks that she's planning to use during Pesach, so then you have to do bedikas chametz in that. Kids' pockets. A lot of times kids put candies and gums and cookies in their pockets. So those types of clothing, you have to do bedikas chametz. But the Rebbeim, they used to take a brush and clean out with a brush, turn the pocket inside out and clean out the pockets to make sure there was no chametz. They had a behemoth, the stall of the animals. The Rebbe Rashab was very, very strict. He called in the shamus and he said to him, "You're responsible for this place with your life." With your life, he said. You are responsible to make sure the stall of the horses was the mamish no chametz. Because over there you feed the horses chametz. So it's even worse. What?
Clothing that you're not planning to wear for Pesach.
Clothing that you're planning to wear for Pesach, you can sell with the chametz.
You have to move it away.
Ideally, you should move it away, but what chametz is there already?
Like a coat closet.
Huh?
My wife has a coat closet. She doesn't want to go through the coats.
So then you close off the closet and you put all the clothes in there that you don't want to use and you lock it up.
And then on Pesach it's cold and you need a sweater. So
there is a din that let's say you have people many times close off medicine cabinets. And then in the middle of Pesach they realize they need a certain medicine. Or they sold something, then they realize they need something. So in halacha it says you have to avoid it as much as possible. But if you need to, you can quickly go into the place and quickly in and out and just get what you need. But ideally it says to avoid it, you should think beforehand everything that you're going to need before Pesach.
what about the film bag?
Huh?
The film bag.
It depends. If you put chametz in there during the year, you have to do bedikas
You're
chametz.
not going to use your film bag at all.
Yeah, but the talus you might use. Okay, so if you want to sell the talus and fill with the chametz, you could.
But you're not selling the film, you're selling if there's chametz in there.
You're selling the chametz, except Alter Rebbe holds the kelim. We discussed this at according to Alter Rebbe, you sell the actual keli, not the chametz in the keli. Okay, kids then needs to check the rooms that we discussed. The rooms that you sell to the guy, those we hold some calls. You don't need to do bedikas chametz in that room. because you're selling it to the guy, so it's not a problem.
A few nights ago, we learned that because you don't want to sell the keli to the goyim, you just sell what's in the wall.
No, but we said we don't do that. No, we said there are such opinions. But according to the Alter Rebbe, you actually sell the keli itself.
But you're not selling your tefillin.
Right, that's what I'm saying. Tefillin, you're not selling it. Tefillin is not absorbed with chametz. Maybe if you have foreign thoughts with the tefillin on, so then the tefillin maybe is full of chametz. But that's spiritual chametz, not physical chametz.
So then you have some doubt in that.
No, but we mentioned there's a whole sikha from the Rebbe why you don't have to table it. Okay, next. So when you want to make the bedikas chametz, you have to, first of all, it says you have to put away all the food that you're planning to use that night. Later in the morning, you have to put it away because you can't do bedikas chametz with that food around. You put it away. Then you also take 10 pieces of bread. Like we said, you take 10 pieces of bread. We mentioned yesterday, each piece should be less than a kazayas. All together, all 10 pieces together should be a kazayas. You wrap it not in aluminum foil because that doesn't burn. You wrap it in paper, okay? And you also use a feather and a candle and a spoon. Now officially, the feather they didn't have dustbusters in those days. So how would you gather up the crumbs that you found? So you'd gather up the crumbs with the feather and put it onto the spoon. And then into the bag where you find the chametz. Okay, but nobody does that usually today, but that's why the Bedikas chametz kits come with a feather, a candle, and a spoon. Now, according to our minute, when you finish Bedikas chametz, you have the 10 pieces of bread in the bag. And then we also put the feather in the bag and the candle in the bag. And then you tie the bag, the paper bag, right? You tie the bag with a string around it, with the handle of the spoon protruding outwards. So, okay, so you put everything in the bag, the 10 pieces of bread, the candle, the feather. You put the spoon in, but you put the spoon with the wide part down. The handle of the spoon is protruding outside of the bag. That's the way to do it.
Why do you do that?
I don't know. I never saw a reason, but that's what the Rebbe writes we do. What?
You don't have to use the spoon and the feather.
You don't have to, practically speaking, during Bedikas chametz, nobody uses a feather spoon. But it's part of the spirituality of the event.
Wooden spoon, can you use a plastic spoon?
No, the minhag is to use wooden spoon.
Can you burn it at the night?
Huh?
Can you burn this at night or actually the next day?
The proper time for burning is in the morning, and I'll tell you why. What happens if somebody's not going to be able to burn it in the morning? They just won't be able to. So you burn it at night. The reason why we burn it in the morning is because when you burn it, then you're going to remember to do bittul chametz. There's, after the bedika, after you finish the whole thing and you have the bag and everything, so then you nullify the chametz. Why do you nullify the chametz at night? Because many people during the day get busy to go to work, whatever they're going to forget. So Chum said at night people are home, so at night you do bittul chametz. Bittul chametz. The primary bittul chametz, though, halachically, is right before midday when you're burning the chametz. Not midday, an hour before when you burn the chametz. So therefore, it's always done together because then you're involved in it. You're going to do the burning, and then you're going to do bittul chametz, nullify the chametz. The difference is at night you just say, I'm being mevatel the chametz that I don't know about. Then, because the chametz you're planning to use, you're not planning to nullify it because you're going to use it. During the day, you have to say that I know and I don't know, that I'm aware of, that I'm not aware of. And by the way, the bittul is very important. It's in Aramaic. Why is it in Aramaic? Because it's the language everybody understood in those days, even the illiterate Jews. But if somebody says nullification of chametz in Aramaic and they don't know what the words mean, it's worthless. When you nullify the chametz, you have to know what you're saying. So you don't have to say it in Aramaic. You can say it in English, in Chinese, in whatever. So you can say it in any language because you have to understand what you're saying when you nullify the chametz. But the main bittul chametz is the one that you do at the time of burning the chametz.
And so what time can you eat chametz this year?
10:54, what? I don't know, look in the Chabad weeklies. There was just a whole stack of them. Another thing is, I think it's 10:49, 11:54. Yes, 10:49 eating, 11:54, you have to burn it by then. Now, the bracha that you say when you do Bedikat Chametz is a Shekechon Mitzvah V'Tzvadu Al Biur Chametz. It's one of the few brachas you say once a year, huh? That bracha you say once a year. The bracha on the new trees, the blossoming of the new trees, Shlichisa Be'elam Klum, is once a year. The bracha that you bench shlicht on Yom Kippur, Ladik Nashayim HaKippurim, is also once a year. There's basically there's very few brachas that you make only once a year. So a Bir Chametz is a bracha you make only once a year.
You make the bracha on the tree at night?
Yeah, if you see it, why not? You can make it on a Shabbos, you can make it on...
Can you make it on the one in your front yard, if you've seen it since the beginning of the month?
It says it's a shad in halacha, everybody does, but it says in halacha it's only the first time you see it. But again, when you look at it to stare and you see the actual blossoms, then you should make the bracha. But you can't do it according to the Rebbe in what should we call it, Luchel Chabad. Says Shulchan Aruch you can do it other or ear. And the Rebbe writes, no, you cannot do it other ear, you can only do it in Nisan. Okay, when you make the bracha, one second. When you make the bracha al Bir Chametz, you're not allowed to talk between the bracha and the beginning of the Bedikat, because you're not allowed to talk between the bracha and the mitzvah. So you have to make a bracha when you're about to ready to start to search for the chametz. So it says you gather the family together, they should all hear the bracha, you say Al Bir Chametz, and then you right away start looking in the area where you looked, and then you continue. Now ideally, it's preferable not to talk during the whole Bedikat Chametz, except things pertaining to the Bedikat, if you need something or something like that. But if somebody talked during the Bedikat Chametz, it's not a problem. But if somebody, let's say, made the bracha and did not start doing Bedikat Chametz yet, and they said, how's the weather? So then they have to make the bracha again, because they weren't yet with the bracha.